Hi, this is Matt Toto. I'm the CEO of Ember IT. Today I wanted to talk about our decision to move some of our services away from Microsoft's E5 stack. That traditionally has been a great solution that includes endpoint protection, identity, all their Defender for X products that all work really well together. One of the focuses that has been on a lot of CISOs' minds or vCISOs' minds has been around identity this year and last year, and the idea that almost every breach or hack starts with identity, right? So protecting that at all costs. Even if you look back at some of Microsoft's hacks where they were attacked, it's usually through a Surface account or some identity that was set up, forgotten about, and then breached, or the permissions that it had were kind of forgot about. So two of the things that we decided to move away from in order to break up that E5 stack that we had, first is the endpoint protection. So Ember has made the strategic move to partner with SentinelOne. And SentinelOne provides an endpoint detection and response EDR product that also talks to some of our MDR players, works really, really well, allows us to integrate a lot of AI features, which we couldn't with Microsoft unless we bought a Security Copilot. And then we actually would have to rinse, repeat that Security Copilot purchase with every single client in their individual tenants. With SentinelOne, we get that AI technology just in a single console, which is very rinse repeatable through all of our clients. I can do a keyword search to say who is plugged in a USB stick and kind of go across all my clients. In that single console, I can perform global searches. If we're looking for a particular indicator of compromise, we can search globally across all of our clients. So a lot of benefits to going to a more MSP-friendly endpoint protection product that we can, again, kind of rinse repeat. SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, Microsoft have always been kind of the top three players in that EDR space for quite some time, and we chose to go with SentinelOne there. The other component that we chose to move away was identity, and this was a big one. This is quite a bit more laborious to move away from, switch all of your single sign-on SSO configurations and move all your applications, but we decided to partner with Okta. We feel Okta is a bit cleaner interface, easier to call out identities that might not be in use anymore, much faster to troubleshoot. So if you're investigating a breach or some kind of alert, the logging works much faster. The dashboards work faster in Okta. I can pull up logs right away. If I'm troubleshooting, if I'm adding a new configuration, let's say I'm going to this passwordless model, and I want to troubleshoot why that's working or why that's not, those logs show up right away. On the Microsoft Entra side, they can take quite a few minutes to show up, and the interfaces are a little bit slower. So for a lot of those reasons, we're moving to Okta. One of the killer features that I really like about Okta is that you can configure it so that your push notification for MFA actually happens before you enter your password. That alone, that little switch, completely removes password spray attacks. Because now the person that was getting attacked from Russia, even though they couldn't log in, their passwords can sit there and be guessed against Microsoft Entra. And then eventually you'll get a ghost MFA once your password is guessed. We'll get an alert through Sentinel, Microsoft Sentinel or SIM, and then we'll change that person's password. By flipping that and making them do the MFA, perform the MFA first, I might get a ghost prompt for MFA, but my password is not compromised. You can't sit there and guess my passwords against Okta all day long because you're actually prompted for something else first. They also have some other easier to implement passwordless authentication methods. They have something called Okta Verify that you can install on your PC, utilizes thumbprint, just like Microsoft does with the Face ID and Windows Hello. I think it's a little easier to implement, even though it requires some third-party software. It's a little easier to implement on the Okta side. It's a little more intuitive. So that's been a big shift for us. We've been moving all of our applications over to Okta and utilizing single sign-on with Okta. And the last step will obviously be actually moving Microsoft's identification or Microsoft's authentication to Okta as well as our kind of final push there. So far, all of our users like Okta much better. It's a little bit more friendly. The prompts are more friendly. Being able to use Okta Verify on their machines is much more friendly, especially on the Macs. We're about 50% Macs over here. So all of that seems to be working much better. And so we're looking at other tools, things outside the Microsoft ecosystem a little bit more than we were previously. I think SentinelOne is going to be a real big improvement for our security team in terms of time to remediate or time to discover. And I think Okta, everybody so far likes that quite a bit better. And I think the logging and the improvement is going to make it easier to identify, again, identities that aren't in use anymore, service accounts, has quite a bit better reporting, a little bit more intuitive, and easier to lock down as we kind of fine tune our controls and lock down, for geofencing and other utilities. So it's been fun. It's been really cool to play around with Okta and see where they've been. We had actually been on Okta a long, long time ago and then went to Microsoft. Still a valid argument to be made to stick with E5. A lot of the stuff works really, really well together and talks to each other, but we're going to try to pick the best of each technology. Okta, all they do is identity. All their money goes into identity, and they're not trying to be everything to everybody. And we really find that attractive, and we think the tool is really, really good. Thanks, and I'll see you again soon.